Now that the holidays are over and you have your poinsettias left, have you ever wondered what you need to do with them? Can you keep them as houseplants? How long can you keep their beautiful flowers growing? Hi, it's Gary with Successful Gardens, and now that the holidays are over, I'm going to show you some of the things that you can do to keep your poinsettia plants with their colorful bracts for another couple of months. And then after that, what do? Do you throw them out? Hopefully you don't. As you can see, I have some poinsettias in the background, and then of course this white and red one right here. Now in this pot there's two different plants, so I don't have a magic poinsettia plant that is giving off two different colors. So it's purposely planted that way. Poinsettias, if given the proper care, they'll keep their colorful bracts. The true flower of a poinsettia is right inside of here. It is long since bloomed and gone away, but the leaves, or modified leaves, or bracts as they're called, even though a lot of people refer to this as the flower of the poinsettia plant, for sense of ease and keeping myself from correcting myself all the time, if I refer to them as a flower, know that I am talking about the bracts of a poinsettia. I've had a poinsettia keep its color all the way into February. Poinsettias can be turned into a house plant, and you can keep them growing all year long. And in fact, you can even get them to color up again. Now, at the end of the video, I'm going to show you a picture of my friend Ingrid. She's in Missouri, and she has a 10-year-old poinsettia that she has been keeping alive, well, for at least 10 years. And I'm going to tell you some of the secrets that she does at the end of the video. So stay tuned for that, and I'll show you her 10-year-old poinsettia plant. But now let's pretend that all of these bracts have fallen off. The lower leaves have just maintained their green color, but it's starting to look like it's ready, and you're really close to wanting to toss it out. But what I would tell you is, let's try an experiment. Let's get that growing as a house plant. You want to take your pruners. You could use scissors if you don't have a pair of pruners, but I would recommend, because their stems and stalks are a little more woodier or stiffer, I would actually, if you don't have pruners, a good pair of kitchen shears would work better than a pair of scissors. But with this, you're going to want to reach in and just reduce the canopy, or the stalks of the flower. So when I do that, I'm just going to take these stems, reduce all of those, and this is also will help you look in and check out the conditions of all of the stalks that you have, or the stems that are on this plant. But we'll just want to go ahead and pretty much reduce all of the foliage. As you look at the stem, you can see that the stems are actually hollow, but they're producing a white sap. Now this is characteristic of a poinsettia. It's out of the Euphorbia family, and Euphorbia refers to plants that give off a white sap. And this is actually what some people will have a reaction to when they say poinsettia plants are poisonous. It's actually, people will have a problem with this sap, which is latex, which has a latex compound to it. And so this is where sometimes that might cause the skin irritation. And so, but now I've got this plant completely reduced. Might as well take off this little color right here too. And so you can see that this has two distinct plants. Now you could leave it in this pot, or you could actually separate it out and develop or make two different pots. of these plants. So that's up to you. But what we still want to do, where this was your first year of growing this, you want to make sure that the roots are in healthy condition. That will actually tell us the most important factor. Is it worth keeping? So I'm just going to carefully pop this out of this pot. And I can look at those roots and their condition. Now, as you can see, these roots are nice. They have an ivory cast to them. They're a bright white or an ivory. And you got good root development here in the bottom. So this is in good shape. After looking at the roots in their healthy condition, I'm just going to put this plant right back in that pot. Now with any of the other ones you have, you want to make sure, if you haven't taken off your decorative plastic, now is the time to take off that decorative plastic. That's why you really want to make sure that you inspect the roots of your plants, is because a lot of people will capture water. Poinsettias will sit in that water that's in that protective sleeve, and those roots will rot. And so and when they rot, they're going to be a black color. They're not going to be this pretty white or ivory color. And once they are gone, your plant's going to just continue to wither and wilt away, and it will not be worth trying to save. But with these two red ones, I'm going to actually keep these growing and enjoy their color for a few more months. Let's say fast forward to March, end of February, March, when you have cut back your plant. Leave a couple of the bottom leaves. That's going to be fine with what you do there. This is when you want to get into a fertilizing program with this. You know, if you have other house plants, use it at the water and fertilize at the same time. A poinsettia can, when it's in the flush stage, or the time that it's starting to grow its leaves and become a nice bush, it can tolerate just a slight drying out. You know, it's simple. You can use a moisture meter to gauge the moisture content of the potting soil, or you can actually just insert your finger down in there, and if you can feel moisture up to your first knuckle or so, there's plenty of moisture in the pot. Being a plant that has a stronger stem, this is where you can use a granulated fertilizer or a time-release fertilizer. This particular pelleted time-release fertilizer, it says that it can feed up to 4 months. I will actually use this one, and I will give it a second dose in about 2 months. I'm just going to add a tablespoon to the top of this plant, and actually I won't even use a full tablespoon. That's about a teaspoon. And so that fertilizer will prolong itself for the duration of the summer months. And there again, I will put a second dose of that in about 2 months. Now, I mentioned the water-soluble fertilizer. I'm using a Fertilome balanced fertilizer. It's a 20-20-20. It says water-soluble. It's the blue fertilizer that when you get it out, it's blue, and then it turns your water blue. I will use this fertilizer and just pour on the top of the plant, give it a good soaking. And I will use the fertilizer, the liquid fertilizer, about every other week. And that's what my fertilizing regimen is when I fertilize my houseplants during the course of the summer months. One thing about getting poinsettias to color is they are photosensitive. They are dependent on a light change, a natural light change, to get the bracts or those leaves to start changing color. Now, when I was in college, I was in charge of growing, for one of my projects, I was in charge of growing poinsettias. We had a couple of hundred of poinsettias in one of our greenhouses, and I built an apparatus that went over the growing benches where when I would leave the greenhouses at night, about 5 o'clock every night, I would cover those benches over with a with a black plastic film, and then I would come in the morning about 8 o'clock. I would take that covering off. That was giving the poinsettias about 12 to 14 hours of complete darkness. And starting that in around the 1st of September, I did that every night, even on the weekends, on and off, on and off. And I went all the way to when the Bracts, we got about 30%, 25 to 30% of the leaves had started to change color. That's when I could stop covering them. Now, when greenhouses are growing millions of poinsettias, they obviously don't have a black tarp that they can cover the whole greenhouse with, but what they do, they can actually reduce the amount or the quality of light that they have. And so by doing that, naturally, it will slowly change color. Plants that grow native in the wild, poinsettias are native to the southern areas of Mexico, and they turn naturally. But for the holidays and for plant production, greenhouses will introduce those darkness on a regular basis so that they can have a full crop turn at the same time. And that's the importance of. Now, in your home, you'll see other videos, you'll see trainings, read literature that talks about covering the individual plant with a box or setting it in a dark closet. Well, if you put it in a closet, you got to remember to bring it out in the morning. But because a plant is photosensitive, you can't open up that closet in the middle of the night to grab a game or grab your coat to go outside. It's got to be in a solid, constant darkness, or what that internal clock of that plant will reset each night. And so that's why some poinsettias will be prolonged in when they start to turn, or not even turn at all. And it's because there's been too much light introduced to it during its course as it's starting to change. Now, I was telling you about Ingrid. Ingrid has this 10-year-old poinsettia plant. As you can see, it's just absolutely gorgeous to see the two tones of colors on those poinsettias. It's just fun to see. And when she told me that it was 10 years old, it was like, okay, I've got to know some of your secrets. And what she told me is she doesn't do much at all. She'll let them bloom or have the colorful bracts, usually up until February or March, and then she'll cut them back. She will leave the plant on her. She has a sunroom, and she says she just leaves it in there. And then when the summer temperatures start to be consistently above 60 degrees, she will take her poinsettia outside and put it on her outside patio. And then again in September, when temperatures start to decrease some, but there's that natural change of light happening, she will bring it into her sunroom in the house, and that's where she'll leave it. She doesn't cover it, but she said that in her sunroom they don't spend a lot of evening time in there, so that room stays naturally dark. It still has the bright sunlight during the daytime hours, which is important. That's why you can't forget to leave it in a closet. It still has to have 10 to 12 hours of bright sunlight, but then the reduced light in the evening hours. So with Ingrid, doesn't do anything special to her plant other than she just takes care of it and treats it like a regular house plant. And look at what this plant has done for her and the show that it puts on for her every year. So congratulations, Ingrid, on being able to keep that poinsettia alive for 10 years. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. And if you did find this video helpful, hit that like button and the subscribe button. And until next time, this is Gary with Successful Gardens. And remember, let's get growing.